Welcome, new Templars. I'm Dylan Lewis Monroe, aka A145, the Map Maker. And we have some huge news to announce in this video that I'm sure you've already heard. The Pope is dead. The Pope is dead. Ding dong. The Pope is dead. Pope Francis, hasta la vista. Now, of course, conspiracy theorists are saying he's already been dead for a long time, that we've been seeing a mask or an actor, at times possibly a hologram, possibly even the actor Jonathan Pryce has been suggested, has been playing the role of the Pope. But whatever the truth may be about who has been playing the Pope for the past 4 or 5 years, because I think he may have been taken out in 2020, it is now officially announced to the world, to the masses of normies and Catholics who worship this guy, that he is actually dead. The day after meeting JD Vance, which is a very, very strange coincidence. Maybe not a coincidence. Maybe Vance was sent there to deliver a message. I don't actually think that Vance went there to assassinate the Pope, but that is a conspiracy theory that's floating around, I think, pretty much in jest. But I think it's more like the White Hats have been running this whole operation, and JD Vance was sent there to hand the actor or whoever it was, the clone, the pink slip, or retire him, as they would say in Blade Runner, or decommission, whoever was filling this role. So this is quite historic. Anytime a pope dies, it's a huge shift in world consciousness, really, and the spiritual direction of the planet. Of course, he's just a figurehead in front of, rather, all these black nobility families and nobility families throughout Europe that are really running the world. But I don't know. At the end of the day, he is a very important figurehead, and someone that people of not even just Catholics look to for moral guidance, as abysmal as that may be. But this Pope Francis was definitely a bad guy. The first Jesuit Pope, which brought into light many questions about the Jesuits' position within the Catholic hierarchy, a position that they have fought for the apex of for many centuries, and this Pope seemed to represent the Jesuits gaining complete control over the Catholic Church, which had been their long-term goal. But now he's dead, and who will replace him? And this Pope was known for, to eulogize him a little bit, this Pope was known for extremely liberal policies, policies that in the world that I grew up in was very much antithetical to the Catholic Church, which was considered very conservative. This Pope was pro-open borders, pro-mass immigration, pro-climate change, pro-vaccine, pro-LGBTQ, which was probably one of the most shocking positions, at least from the conservative Catholic point of view. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing in general, but we know what this globalist extreme liberal agenda has done with the LGBTQ concept, including adding on the T and pushing it towards the P, which we all know what that is, pedophilia. So this Pope was installed before the Q operation really took root, and so I would say he is the last of the evil popes, possibly. Some predictions or even prophecies say that he may be the last pope of all time, but we'll see about that if this coming conclave can pick a new one. And funnily enough, the Hollywood movie Conclave, which was about something like this exact scenario, I have not seen it, but apparently they pick a black pope, and now in real life the Catholics are saying that they may actually have a pope from Africa, a black pope, or a archbishop or cardinal from Africa may be the next replacement. And he would be a more conservative one. So we'll see if they can get their act together and pick another pope, or if we may have some huge world changes before then. We are in the midst of what the Q campaign would call April showers. We made it through March Madness without too much madness. We've been saying this for like 8 years, 7 years now. But the April showers are hitting, I would say, and I do believe that this Pope death may be kickoff for a more accelerated phase of operations. And let's see, there's just so many little factoids here to piece together to put together this quilt of the bigger picture here. But so many indications that this Q operation is on track, still in effect, and not just a pipe dream of hope, or not just an old pope that died of natural causes, but to die, right after JD Vance visits. This has been timed with precision, as this is the public announcement, not when he actually died. Personally, going back with everything I've heard over the past 8 years, I heard in 2020 that Russian special forces invaded the Vatican and cleaned it out. So for some reason that stuck with me. That wasn't from like confirmed source or anything, but for some reason that stuck with me. A lot of what happened during COVID with the lockdowns seemed like that was the time in 2020. I'm talking about that was the time when a lot of arrests happened behind the scenes, although virtually none of them were announced publicly. And that was also the time that I heard, through people like Charlie Ward, which some will say is not reliable, but a lot of people have said that this Vatican gold was transferred on military aircraft from Vatican to the USA. And that's why Trump is saying things now like, we have the gold. And so let's pull up a couple pictures here, images to go with this narrative. Here is the Pope dead Easter Monday, faithful to the end. Sky Live. So people are just putting together all these events that happened yesterday, including the Pope dying, Klaus Schwab quitting the WEF, which I swear I heard that story about 6 months ago, but apparently it's confirmed official now, and they're looking to pick a new chair of the WEF. Gold hitting an all-time high of 3,500. Atkins' new SEC chair, so good things coming for crypto, and crypto pumping today, the 22nd, which towards the end of this video, we'll get to a little more detail on the Jassara news. And in the middle of this video, we'll get to some health news as well. But this is Rob Cunningham's interpretation of some of these things that happened, being that the Vatican cartel ends. Well, I wouldn't say it necessarily ends, but just because of this news, but there's a lot of evidence that it is ending. Their power over the world is ending. And WEF cartel ends, the Fed cartel ending, gold ends the Fed, crypto SEC chair, COVID cartel government charges rather. Cuomo, the governor of New York, is facing charges for his role during the COVID epidemic. And so here is JD Vance visiting the Pope the day before his death, and wearing a gold tie, which may be another little reference to the gold that we took from the Vatican when the Vatican was actually cleaned out during the special operations. And then Trump posting this very mysterious tweet the day before the Pope's death on 420 on Easter. I guess Easter fell on Earth Day and Cannabis Day this year, 420. And Trump put out this tweet: the golden rule of negotiating and success. He who has the gold makes the rules. Thank you. A lot of gold comms happening all over the place. And the dollar is crashing in value while gold, again, is hitting all-time highs. So I believe, according to this Jassara plan I've been talking about since 2022, we are edging closer and closer to having a gold-backed currency here in the USA the way Russia did back in 2022. And so I'm not sure if this will be preceded by an even more dramatic crash in the price of the dollar, but it does seem like the stock market is already starting to rebound a little bit. So is the crash over? Is it going to crash a little bit more? TBD. But I have definitely been buying the dip and even buying some little altcoins in the process. So, little recap here of some of the major Cabal deaths. This is actually basically a recreation of sort of a diagram that I want to make. I was even thinking it could be like a poster we sell that like comes with a big red marker and people can cross them off as they're announced. And of course, some of these may already be gone and being played by stand-ins, actors, clones, maskers, but just showing all these important people that have been removed from the chessboard in the course of the Q operation, since the Q operation became publicly known about in 2017. Many different Rothschilds, Rockefellers, Kissinger, royal family, and just a few more big ones to go. And they did not even include Zbigniew Brzezinski on that list, or George H.W. Bush, or McCain, and some of these big Cabal players that have bit the dust. And that bitch from YouTube that deleted New Templars back when we were on New Templars on YouTube, which we're actually back on YouTube, by the way. You might even be watching this on YouTube, but we only have like 190 subscribers. So if you're watching this on Rumble, please head over to YouTube and follow us on YouTube as well. I just became aware literally today or yesterday that Rumble is banned in several important countries, including China, Russia, France, Brazil. And so it's very important that we've relaunched this YouTube channel, and we have been testing YouTube with some of the most extreme content. We have Jason Q on there talking about the Jews, and it is standing strong with only a little copyright violation for all the different clips he played. So it's looking like free speech has been restored to YouTube, especially with the death of that YouTube CEO who probably took too many vaccines. But so go follow New Templars on YouTube. We're going to post all our videos on Rumble and YouTube now, unless there's something, we're trying to test the algorithm there to make sure we can say whatever we want, because we don't want to be walking on eggshells over there and then lose our channel once we've put all this energy into growing it for the second time. So I have an X post here. Let's just pop back up to talking about the Pope death. X post here from 589 Bull 10,000 on X, who put together a nice little compilation of information about this Pope death. So I'm going to read this really quickly here. April 21st, 2025. The Pope dies. The global spiritual stronghold goes dark. Vatican media rolls out mourning protocols. Flags drop. Powerful silence across Europe. Same morning, Donald J. Trump posts one sentence at 4:09 a.m. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's not a quote, that's a claim of ownership. You remember the 2017 capitulation tour, Saudi Arabia, Israel, the Vatican. It wasn't diplomacy, it was a message. The old guard lost. There were no arrests, no press conferences, just quiet compliance, and, if rumors are true, gold, lots of it. Assets changed hands, vaults were opened, and now, 8 years later, the scoreboard lights up. The Pope's death isn't random. It's a signal that the spiritual cover for the globalist system is gone. The one they all bowed to vanished. And Trump wastes no time. He declares who holds the collateral, who writes the terms, who sets the monetary order. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's not a theory, that's Trump announcing control. While the world watches the Vatican, while the markets prepare for gold revaluation, while Iraq, BRICS, and XRP load the next system. Trump just pulled the curtain back and said it plainly. We hold the gold, we set the rules, the era of paper is over. You're not watching politics, you're watching the reset go kinetic. The Pope is dead, the gold is accounted for, and 47 just checked the final box. So all that is looking very positive. And one last little meme here is people, making jokes about who JD Vance should visit next, putting up pictures of AI pictures, of course, him with Pelosi, Clinton, Soros, Barack, And a lot of people are noticing this, that it's very strange. That Vance visited the Pope the day before the death was announced. Even Nino Rodriguez here saying, anyone think JD Vance is Trump's secret hitman? So I think that might be a little bit of exaggeration. Everyone's being a little playful with it, but there's some kind of correlation that JD Vance has become like the herald of the 47 agenda that comes through to just devastate globalists worldwide. We all remember his speech at the NATO Security Summit in was it the NATO Security Summit? Some kind of security summit in Bavaria, where he basically, gave all these European generals and representatives like a total beatdown, saying that we don't share the same values anymore. So it's a beautiful new era for humanity, hopefully starting. I almost hope they don't even pick a new pope, that, something just goes completely sideways. Pedophilia is revealed and, the whole Catholic institution implodes, but that's maybe a little bit wishful thinking. So want to take a brief little moment here to mention a few personal things. If I sound weird, it's because I'm having really bad allergies for the past week, and it's even gotten just a lot worse in the past few days. Everything here has bloomed. All the trees are opening up their leaves, flowers. And this is after 2 weeks ago, we had like torrential rain. And so I think everything's blooming even more than normal, but typical spring allergies. Hopefully I can make it through this video without sneezing or having to blow my nose, but we got the paper towels here just in case. And my other little personal note I want to mention here, which I did mention in my video with Jason Q last week, but want to mention it one more time, was that the weekend before last, I went to this concert, EDM concert called LSZ, which is a collaboration between two artists, Closey and LS Dream, which are both sort of very popular international electronic music festival DJs. And they have combined forces to create this hybrid collaboration, LSZ. And the crazy thing about this is that LS Dream has always stood out to me, because when you hear some of this guy's most well-known albums, he incorporates Pleiadian channel messages into the music. And in particular, the recording of Barbara Marciniak reading from the Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings of the Pleiadians. So if you know anything about me and the history of DSMP, this whole thing started with me reading the Bringers of the Dawn, Teachings of the Pleiadians, I believe in the summer 2017, before I made the original QWeb. So for 8 years later, is it 8 years? Something like that, 8 years later, to be hearing the same message played in a concert, to this, sold out concert downtown, like one of the biggest music venues, downtown Cincinnati, and knowing this is a concert that's going all over the US and most likely international as well. At times we got the Ashtar LED here, we got the Ashtar timeline. Like, I don't know if any of this is real or not. They haven't manifested physically to me to prove themselves real, or if any of this channeling is real or not. But for this message, the same messages that started all of this truth-seeking, well, I've been on the truth-seeking journey for much longer, but this whole truth operation that I've been conducting, since DSMP began, to see it reaching the mainstream like this is huge to me. And I mean, I had tears in my eyes during this show when I was hearing this message played to the audience. And, it's like general Pleiadian messaging about like love and unity. But, even to see an artist in such a mainstream venue putting out ideas like this and like this type of positive energy, like the whole show was a very positive energy, like a very loving community vibe among the audience. it was very hope inspiring, honestly. And I left the show just feeling like, wow, like the good guys really are winning and everything's going to be okay. And I'm like, that may sound a little bit of like a jump from just, hearing a Palladium message play in an ADM show. But, some of the opening artists for this concert still had some of that like Illuminati imagery, and like the opening DJs were more like remixing old pop songs, which is what most DJs do. But like for the main act, they're creating their own music. It's a totally different vibe than, what most people have experienced as pop music for, most of the past 100 years, I would say, maybe 50 years, more accurate. So like we're really entering a new era. Just the whole vibe of the show, like the frequencies, the bass, the visuals, it was like next level. So definitely want to throw in a big prop for LSZ. And if it's coming to your city, I would definitely check it out. Look up the cities on Ticketmaster. They're going to be in Minneapolis next weekend. They were in Boston last weekend. But it's definitely worth seeing. And so, be ready for a lot of lasers and a lot of bass and bring earplugs. But, the point here in talking about this is that I'm really seeing the Pleiadian message reach the masses. And, we may be still pretty far away off from a ship's decloaking, landing, or, intergalactic contact. But to be having these messages relayed to like mainstream concert goers like this is a very good sign. And it's even also a good sign that, if he's doing this type of music, it's not censored by, formerly like the Illuminati, whoever that may be, owned all these music venues, like Khazarian Mafia, essentially. So I see that there is a sea change happening, and it is very hopeful, very hope inspiring. Now, before we get on to the other news, including Easter at the White House, the health and Jassara news, got to put in a quick little promo here for Deep State Mapping Project and the expo coming up at Trump Doral. It is the Charlie Ward Truth Seekers Expo, and there's a big golf event for several days before the actual Truth Expo, but I will be attending as just a attendee, a VIP backstage attendee, so I can get some interviews with the speakers. But I would love to see as many of you guys there as possible. They have package deals where you can stay in the Trump Doral Resort, which is an experience, let me tell you. It's definitely worth getting the full experience, the VIP package, be able to use the pools and the hot tubs at night after this conference. And it's going to be a lot of fun. That I can tell you. Jason Q will be there, Charlie Ward, supposedly Nino Rodriguez. I'll be surprised if he actually goes, but a lot of other speakers. You can see, we'll put up the picture of all the speakers so that you can see everyone that is there. And if you want to get tickets, I have a link in the description and in the comments of this video. And I would definitely recommend coming to this. It's something that's never been done before, which is very exciting as well. And it's also going to be it's a new tour that's beginning. They don't have a tour date set. Like it's not like the Reawaken America tour where they have all the dates set in advance. But this is definitely kind of an experiment. They're going to do this one expo and then hopefully do others in other parts of the US as well as other countries. And so this could be a big thing that's kicking off and a historic place to be at Trump Doral May 1st and 2nd for this Truth Seekers Expo. Come join me, meet me, and all the other speakers, and experience the luxury of Trump National Doral, which I can tell you from my experience is an amazing place to be, and a little taste of the golden age. So definitely get tickets, come. I recommend the VIP, stay in a room, especially if you're from out of town. It's like, if you're going to come to the event, you might as well get the full enchilada. So it's going to be worth it. Beyond that, check out deepstatemappingproject.com. Very exciting announcement. We are in some of the final phases of relaunching the whole website on a new domain. I think I have announced the name of the new domain before, but I'm not going to say it quite yet because we have a kind of ugly coming soon page. But very soon, the whole website will look different. The user experience will be vastly improved. And we've even updated and released a couple new products for the relaunch. But that will be coming in maybe a few weeks or a month or so. But we're getting there. It's very exciting to see the new version of DSMP emerging. But in the meantime, you can still find everything on deepstatemappingproject.com. We have the new Crash t-shirt, which I'm a huge fan of. Hopefully, this is going to be a thing of the past soon, and the Crash t-shirt will be like a memento of what has been and not something that is continuing much longer. Beyond that, we have all the crystals from the most recent Tucson trip listed, including the new crystal skull and the big points like what you see behind me, which all come with light stands. I've been talking a lot about Jasara recently, so make sure you guys have your Jasara posters or tapestries or prints. Jasara map. Our newest health and healing one, the Infinite Life Vortex, comes all different sizes from 40-inch to 24-inch to 24-inch folded. It's Healing Web 2.0, better than the original Healing Web, and more information on all the alternative therapies that will be the new medical system being announced, after RFK is finished dismantling Big Pharma. Then, of course, we have the world hierarchy pyramid, one of my favorite diagrams because it really shows you who has been running the world and the whole system that the White Hats and Angel Force, the Galactics, are dismantling to bring Earth into the new era, the Golden Age, the new Golden Age of Enlightenment. Now, along with the crystals, we have the new crystal bracelets, which are all listed. The bead bracelets made of top quality gemstone beads, strung in-house by myself and upgraded with light code charms. Of course, we also have the shungite for EMF protection, the custom light code plates, the custom light code pendants, and many other shapes to meet your EMF protection needs. Shungite is the best stone for EMF protection. And lastly, we have the whole body section with all my affiliate products. The one I want to highlight tonight is ASEA, which I've actually been using even more recently to get me through these allergies. Not only can you drink ASEA, you can put it in a dropper bottle to drop in your eyes. You can put it in a nasal mister to squirt up your nose. And of course, there's that drinking it. And then there is the topical version, Renew 28 as well. So that will be, the ASEA products on the body section of DSMP will link you to my ASEA site where you can get all that ASEA stuff. And there's even an option to become an affiliate yourself if you're looking to start your own business and promote ASEA as well. So check all that out, deepstatemappingproject.com. Make sure you like and subscribe on this video. And on the homepage of deepstatemappingproject.com, sign up for our newsletter where you'll be notified of all our new video drops, product launches, expos, sales, and more. Let's now get back to the news. Easter at the White House. What a scene it was. Here was Trump surrounded by children doing coloring books. They had the colonial band playing traditional music, of course, and Trump doing his signature on the picture that the kids have colored on the White House. It's just so ridiculous, but just a lot of fun. But the big thing was the brown bunny this time. And one of the earliest Q confirmations was Easter 2018, when someone on the Q boards had asked Q to tell Trump to say the word tippy top in a press conference, and it was in Trump's Easter speech with the white rabbit with the big circular glasses, who was very much looking like the white rabbit from Alice in Wonderland. In that speech on Easter, Trump dropped one of the earliest and biggest Q confirmations, which was saying tippy top in that speech on Easter, saying we keep the White House in tip top shapes. Some call it tippy top shape. Like, he made a very emphasis point about it. And so one of course, hundreds and hundreds of Q confirmations at this point, but that was one of the earliest ones, directly proving that Trump had, knowledge of the Q operation and was actively responding to requests posted on the Q board. So Easter is used as a time to put out some signals and secret comms from the Q team and the White Hats. I'm not sure, exactly like what the comms were in this one. I haven't watched the entire footage of the event or the speech, but there was an emphasis made on the brown rabbit costume. And Dan Scavino posted the rabbit separately. And so the big difference is that it's brown now instead of white, not wearing the glasses anymore, wearing a green pea coat with a big daisy on it. I don't know how much you want to read into this, but I was kind of looking up other prominent brown rabbits in pop culture and mythology, and found this, that the brown rabbit might also remind some of the Burr rabbit, a trickster figure from African American folklore popularized by the Uncle Remus stories. Burr rabbit, often depicted as brown in illustrations, is known for his cunning and ability to outsmart stronger opponents like the Burr fox. So I thought that might have been an analogy for Trump and the White Hats sort of outsmarting the deep state with all their advanced technology and military industrial complex and black programs that, they've been sort of like the tortoise and the hare. They've been outsmarted. So that might be one reference. Others are connecting it to maybe Peter Rabbit, or just saying that this is a comm saying, the white rabbit is no more, like no more need to follow the white rabbit. And, maybe this relates back to the very cryptic and interesting post that Trump made on April 3rd regarding the tariffs, saying the operation is over. And, ostensibly this was regarding the tariffs, but anytime Trump's talking about the operation, or even just using the word special, which in military and operations, special is the code word for covert or secret operations, black operations. So when he says someone is very, very special, that could mean that someone has something to do with some secret operations, not just that they're special in the general sense of the word special. But in this post talking about the tariffs and the operation, it really reeks of comms and something deeper going on here that most normies will not pick up on. But saying the operation is over, the patient lived and is healing. The prognosis is that the patient will be far stronger, bigger, better, and more resilient than ever before. Make America great again. So, not only does that maybe have to do with the tariffs, but I would say this could be virtually like an announcement that, the Q operation the operation to end the Cabal's power reign on planet Earth has essentially been successful. That it's over. Like, and then this Pope dying is another sort of signal that that may be over. The age of satanic pedophiles ruling the earth, which has been ongoing, since recorded history, is ending, and we're going to see this new era beginning. And as we announce more of the deaths of these key players, we're going to also be having more revelations of truth and disclosure of what actually happened in these operations throughout the past 8 years. And sort of aligning with that, Mike King made some really good points on Patriot Underground this week on Monday. And, I don't like to just repeat everything he says, but this was like, wow, because one of the main things he does is he actually reads the New York Times, which kudos to him for having the patience and taking the time to do that. But it is good to know what the paper of record that most of these liberals actually worship is actually telling them. And there's some very interesting articles in the New York Times. I guess it was from April 18th. The actual title of that article was that Trump's crusade against anti-Semitism is extremely bad for Jews. And the gist of that article was that this university president, Michael Roth, was saying that Trump is tricking the Jews. And actually, the article itself included this cartoon of a bear trap in the shape of a Jewish star, saying that the NY Times used an image of a trap to illustrate the writer's claim that Trump has baited the Jews. So the crazy thing about this is that the extreme far left is actually aligning with the same theories of, well, I guess you call it the extreme far right. I prefer to call it the truth community. And, we're aligning on a consensus that this is actually what's going on, that, Trump is keeping his friends close and his enemies closer in terms of Israel and the Khazarian Mafia. And, I don't like to just use the term the Jews in general, because there's so many that aren't involved in the more nefarious aspects of the Khazarian Mafia and Israel as a nation state. But that, we're preparing for a massive boomerang, essentially. And both the left and the right is seeing it coming. But everyone in the middle is still going to get blindsided. And so I thought Mike made some really good points here, saying that while on the surface level, Trump's saying, I love the Jews, he's lighting menorahs, he's talking about the Gaza Riviera. At the same time, he is quietly attacking and neutralizing all of their most powerful assets that have been running the world for the past good 50 years, including fake news, academia, Soros groups, NGOs, ADL, Hollywood, Antifa, Federal Reserve, Democrat Party, GOP neocons, Epstein Island, Brofman Sisters, which was Nexium, APAC, WHO, EPA, WTO, WEF, CDC, IRS, NOAA, and Paris Climate Regime, and more. All essentially globalist institutions that have seen a decline in funding, decline in viewership, are essentially being slowly edged out of existence by Agenda 47. And so, while we are still giving military aid to Israel, they are losing control. And, a big thing with Mike King is that white hats control the media now, even though they're, maintaining the standpoint on a lot of the liberal media that's still anti-Trump on the surface, but it's like a long-term psychological operation to slowly de-MK Ultra the masses and slowly, make them realize all the negative aspects of the globalist agenda, which has now become the Democrat Party agenda. And it's just becoming so clear in so many ways that The liberal media is fighting a losing uphill, exponentially uphill battle and attaching themselves to more and more absurd causes, like trying to not deport MS-13 members, that they're essentially like little by little alienating everyone that has any type of a shred of common sense and turning them slowly into MAGA supporters through their just extreme TDS. And also really loved this image that Mike King found that shows the mantle in the White House, the room that they're meeting all these foreign leaders in, is arranged very much like the back line of a chessboard, with the rooks, the knights, the bishops, and a single king. The queen is missing, but essentially these gold objects on the mantle are looking like a chessboard. And so, so many signs that Trump is playing 5D chess. And I thought this was a really good, I think, AI image, if that is AI. If it's Photoshop, someone else did a very good job. But, so many people, the black pillars, who I don't think are reading the whole game board accurately enough, saying that this is the situation, that Trump is just fronting for the Jews. Whereas I think the real deep researchers are seeing that this is an illusion, and that the big boomerang is coming when all these Khazarian Mafia institutions have been essentially neutralized, and that a lot of what we're seeing may be a reenactment or just psyops for a specific purpose, and not that the Jews are controlling Trump, but that, like I have said, essentially. But the other kind of big news that I feel like really hasn't gotten much attention, I really don't think I've mentioned it much either, is that the Trump administration is really butting heads with these Ivy League universities and cutting their funding. And if you know anything about my Octagon group map and what I've been preaching for several years now, is that these Ivy League universities are much more important in the bigger scheme of things than most people realize. All the little mayors of every little city come from these Ivy League universities. All the little CEOs of all these Fortune 500 companies come from these Ivy League universities. All the DARPA projects researching for medical and military applications are done through these universities. And despite these universities being like the richest institutions in our country, they still are receiving billions of dollars of funding. Now, some of that is for research grants for the medical and military projects that they are doing through them. But I believe some of this funding is just to keep the university going as well, which obviously they don't need. And so why are we as taxpayers funding these institutions that just keep us locked into this Illuminati globalist system of nepotism and hierarchy, and installing their stooges to essentially govern over we the people? And so there's been a lot of public information come out about Trump being mad and cutting funding to both Columbia and Harvard. And for Columbia, it was because of them supporting supposedly anti-Semitic protests. And so it's just very ironic that this university, which of course all these universities are essentially part of the Khazarian Mafia globalist control system, are losing funding over being anti-Semitic. So if Trump was really controlled by the Jews, like, this would not be happening. They would not be cutting funding to these institutions that are, pivotal in the Khazarian Mafia's control over our entire world, and especially America. And so I don't like to completely promote or endorse this idea that the whole Gaza war is fake, but there's definitely, I believe, fake elements of it. And I found this interesting, especially coming from a fashion background. This man carrying supposedly a dead child and wearing a Prada t-shirt. So it's like, this would be like probably like a $600 t-shirt from Prada. So do the math. Moving on to health news. Now, this is a little bit of an older story, but I want to mention it because it's just so WTF. On April 18th, the White House published a new COVID website with the title Lab Leak and this very strangely photoshopped image of Trump, walking through this word lab leak and says the true origins of COVID-19. And, this basically says it's a man-made virus, came from the lab, completely contradicting a lot of what people were trying to say back in 2020. Has an image of Anthony Fauci on the site in a negative context, sort of acting, as if he is partially responsible, which he was partially responsible for giving funding to that gain of function research, which was banned in America, but giving funding to it to be done in China, in Wuhan. And, beyond even considering that just a lab leak, I believe it was an intentional, I don't know if to call it a leak, an intentional dispersion of the virus to begin the COVID pandemic, which was then exaggerated and, misidentified as the common cold in a lot of different places. Although there was actually a stronger strain of COVID that was quite more lethal. But in general, most people caught the common cold and thought it was COVID or took the COVID test, which was inaccurate. So essentially, truth coming to the subject of COVID-19 and, the White House fully getting behind what was once conspiracy theory is now the official position of the White House. And I think we'll see this position becoming even more true as time goes on and the actual culprits being held accountable. So that was a pretty big hiccup in the MAGA agenda, but I think the White Hats did everything they could to neutralize it and are now about to go even further to actually hold those who were responsible for it accountable. Just yesterday, no image for this one quite yet, but just yesterday was announced by the FDA, RFK's FDA, and his little helper, that all artificial food dyes will be removed from the U.S. Food and Medicine by the end of 2026. So that is huge. That is one of the many things that needs to be removed from our food system. We have to look at GMOs next and pesticides, but that is a big step. That a lot of those food dyes, definitely heard that they can cause ADHD, cancer, and several other, hormonal and biological problems, especially in children, which is unfortunately who is targeted the most by these types of foods and candies that have these dyes. So that is big news on, promises made, promises kept. And the other big health news was that Tulsi Gabbard, in the meeting on, back up there. In the cabinet meeting on April 11th, which was broadcast on YouTube, we have a clip. And essentially, RFK announced that the cause for autism would be announced by September. And just, why I have this image of Tulsi, which was actually from the same news conference or the same cabinet meeting, this was actually a post that was recommended to me on Facebook, which was a post by General Flynn of Tulsi Gabbard in that same meeting saying that they had direct evidence of election tampering. So just to say, if something has changed at Facebook, this is the evidence of it, because, so many of us got pre-banned on Facebook in 2020, even before the election, because they were afraid what we might say after the election happened, that we were just banned in advance. And now Facebook is promoting General Flynn putting a post about Tulsi Gabbard talking about election tampering as a recommended post to me, I would say something massive has changed at Facebook. Zuckbot has been reprogrammed. So much in the way like why New Templars is back on YouTube, I do believe that the White Hats have had a hand in behind the scenes replacing the leadership at a lot of these big tech companies that were formerly very much involved in the censorship. That now the floodgates of truth have been opened. And so let's watch this brief little video of what was said between Trump and RFK at this same cabinet meeting.
There was 1 in 10,000 children had autism, and now it's 1 in 31. Not 31,000, 31. That's a horrible statistic, isn't it? And there's got to be something artificial out there that's doing this. So you think you're going to have a pretty good idea, huh?
We will know by September.
There will be no bigger news conference than that. So that's it. If you can come up with that answer where you stop taking something, you stop eating something, or maybe it's a shot, but something's causing it. It can't be from 10,000 to. Can you imagine that, Marco? That's a big number.
There you have it. By September, and Trump said that will be the biggest press conference of all time. So I love that Trump is giving that subject, the importance it deserves, and really making the statistics well known to the public that, we've gone from, 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 30 for autism. Way too many kids having autism. And, there's no future if everyone in the future has autism, because these people can't hold jobs. They're essentially invalid for the most part, depending on the level of autism. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Looking forward to what RFK will announce that they discover is the true cause of the increase in autism. So looks like a lot will be happening, just in the first year of this Trump term 2, or term 3, as some call it. But big blows to big pharma, to the Fed, to the globalist institutions, to the mainstream media, to a lot of things. It's all come crashing down, and it's beautiful to watch. So switching gears to what I'm calling libtardia news briefly here. I still check Drudge every day, as ridiculous as it is. They are just broken record of TDS, and they're at the point of calling Trump America's Mad King, when I believe that he's shown, promises made, promises kept, pure logic, pure rationality for the most part. Of course, with a little 5D chess thrown in there, a little sprinkle of 5D chess and keeping enemies close or friends close and enemies closer. But the big news 2 weekends ago was something called the 50501 protests. I mean, what a stupid name for protest, just to begin with. It's like, who's even gonna remember that number? It's not something that's memorable or like catchy. But apparently on April 19th, which was Saturday 2 weeks ago, was that? I don't know. This 50-51 protest was all about having 50 protests in 50 states in one day. And they're still not saying exactly who is organizing this, but this was the latest in a series of actions by the rapidly growing movement that previously organized the Not My President's Day in February and the global hands-off protests earlier this month. Honestly, like, that was the day I went to that concert, I believe. And let me just double check my calendar here. When was the 19th? Oh, actually, that was the weekend after the concert. I didn't hear anything about these protests. I didn't, maybe if they had a protest in Ohio, it must have been probably in Columbus, but I mean, I barely even saw pictures. So, they're saying it was 50 protests in 50 states, but maybe I'm just in my own little echo chamber. I don't know, but it did not seem like it had much of an impact. And so Somebody is really spinning their wheels, and kind of like those Tesla protests, it's just a lot of them are paid, the other ones are just misguided, and it's just TDS on full display when so many good things are happening. Like who would be out there protesting removing artificial food dyes from our food? Some people are joking now, like are liberals going to start drinking artificial food dyes in high quantities and high concentrations as a protest to RFK and Trump's agenda at the FDA? This is a death cult, and they will reap the consequences of what they sow. Like I said before, the other big news all across the mainstream media, which I barely even want to mention here, is the fuss over what they're calling the Maryland man who was deported to El Salvador. I'm just like, who the fuck cares? I mean, if he's a member of MS-13, see you later. If he's illegal and an MS-13 member, hasta la vista. And now these Democrat senators want to actually go to El Salvador and have some kind of like a vigil outside of this prison. Well, you know what? They can stay there as long as they want. Hopefully they'll stay there so long that they run out of sick days and get fired by the states that they represent. So we have some very exciting technology news that came from a speech at something called the Endless Frontiers Retreat, which happened in Austin, Texas on April 14th. Some very interesting remarks were made by Director Kratsios, who is Trump's, Michael Kratsios, that is, science advisor to President Donald Trump and director of the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy. He claimed in that retreat, which is essentially like a conference, that the United States can manipulate space and time. And naturally, such a bold and bizarre statement from a government official sent conspiracy theorists into overdrive. Well, that's what mainstream media articles are saying, but I would say conspiracy theory no more. I mean, if this is coming from a government official. So the Endless Frontiers Retreat is a gathering focused on American technological innovations and leadership, where experts discuss strategies for maintaining U.S. primacy in technology and addressing global challenges, particularly in relation to competition with countries like China. It emphasizes the need for collaboration among government, industry, and academia to foster advancements in science and technology. So I'm going to play the 2-minute segment of this speech that had everyone on Twitter going absolutely bananas.
The X-15's record still stands, and the Concorde was decommissioned more than 2 decades ago. Our passenger planes are slower than they used to be. Our trains crawl compared to those in other parts of the world. Our cars do not fly. Advances have not stopped, but something has gone wrong. Stagnation was a choice. We have weighed down our builders and innovators. The well-intentioned regulatory regime of the 1970s became an ever-tightening ratchet, first hampering America's ability to become a net energy exporter and then making it harder and harder to build. We seem to have lost focus and vision, to have lowered our sights and let systems and structures and bureaucracies muddle us along. But we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate time and space. They leave distance annihilated, cause things to grow, and improve productivity. As Vice President Vance said in a recent speech, the tradition of American innovation has been one of increasing the capacities of America's workers, of extending human ability so that more people can do more and more meaningful work. But unrestricted immigration and reliance on cheap labor, both domestically and offshore, has been a substitute for improving the productivity with technology. We can build in new ways that let us do more with less, or we can borrow from the future. We have chosen to borrow from that future again and again. Our choice as a civilization is technology or debt, and we have chosen debt. Today, we choose a better way. Our first assignment is to secure America's preeminence in critical and emerging technologies.
Okay, so boom. The quote from that people really picked up on and was actually posted on the White House website, which I thought was a little bit strange since, this happened in Austin, Texas. It wasn't from the White House, although it is, someone from Trump's cabinet. They posted this whole speech in text format, and this quote was actually segmented out, like separated from the other paragraphs, almost like to put an emphasis on it. But him saying, we are capable of so much more. Our technologies permit us to manipulate space and time. We've got some big disclosures coming down the pipe, is all I can tell you. That disclosures from the Black projects, which involve time travel, stargates, warp speed, light speed, all kinds of crazy technology, replicators. And I believe that's what he's talking about. And even this whole Trump administration and white hat operation may have relied heavily on time travel in different ways, from the Baron Trump stories from the late 1800s to, Q having predictions on, specific dates, years prior to these things happening, that they're using some kind of time lensing technology. Some call it Project Looking Glass, a machine that you can see into the past or future potentially. Of course, sometimes there are blockages in the future, but definitely have heard that Project Looking Glass is capable of revealing, showing, replaying any scene from the past, at least of our timeline. So to manipulate time and space is not as far out as most people think. That most of this stuff we've actually seen in science fiction has actually already been discovered by these Black projects. And I think some of it will be slowly being leaked into first public science and public acknowledgement, and then slowly into actual consumer products where we have, commercial use of some of these technologies that our taxpayer dollars did pay to develop. That's the big problem with DARPA and these universities, is that all of our tax money goes to the government gives it to DARPA gives it to these universities to develop these amazing technologies, and then they're all just funneled into Black projects, classified, the patents confiscated by the government. And so that's all part of JSARA, is the revealing of 6,000 plus patents. Is written right here on the JSARA map, the revealing of 6,000 plus classified patents that will revolutionize science and technology. And so these little speeches by Michael Kratsios and little indications by Trump as well, talking about we have weapons that no one can even comprehend that go beyond nuclear, publicly saying these things, is prepping the public consciousness for disclosure of more advanced technologies. Because it's just, when I keep seeing these rocket launches, it's like, come on, bro. Like, we've been doing rocket launches with these petroleum-based fuels ever since the Apollo programs, and even then, that technology was outdated. So anti-gravity, teleportation, 3D printing, replication, med beds, it's all on the way. It's just a matter of when, and I think it's a matter of, can we get the general public to be mature enough to handle some of these technologies? Because that's part of the big problem, is that we have too many people that would not use them responsibly, or would weaponize them, or use them for personal gain instead of for collective peace and harmony. So lastly here on that same sort of subject is the JSARA news. And the big news with XRP and Ripple from April 8th was that Ripple acquired a company called Hidden Roads, which I'm still trying to understand exactly what Hidden Roads is, what it does, but essentially it's a brokerage. It's a company that acts as a middleman for big money players like hedge funds, banks, and rich investors who want to trade different assets like stocks, foreign currencies, crypto, or other financial assets. It's called a prime broker, which is a fancy way of saying that they help big players do their trades safely and smoothly. Hidden Roads does clearing, which makes sure trades goes through properly, financing, which lends money, and prime brokerage. They're a one-stop shop for trading, helping clients trade all kinds of things like crypto, dollars, gold, without needing to deal with a lot of different companies. They focus on regular money like dollars and stocks, as well as crypto like Bitcoin XRP. And they're also super techy, using computers that make sure everything is fast and safe and don't take sides or trade for themselves, which makes them conflict free. So the big news was that Ripple, the company that issues XRP, acquired Hidden Roads for $1.25 billion. And so that's helping connect old school finance with new crypto. And they also get a special license to do even more trading stuff legally. So that was the breakdown from Grok of what this company does. It's a prime brokerage. And why did Ripple pick Hidden Roads out of any of the other ones? Like, why didn't they buy BlackRock or something like that? Like, I don't know how they made this selection. But, just seeing that Ripple even has the capital to buy a $1.25 billion company, Ripple is clearly a huge player in the new financial system that's coming. And I still very much believe that XRP is going to go to the moon. There will be a great transfer of wealth. And on that note, have a friend, Chris O'Brien from San Diego, California, who put out a really great video about XRP, Jasara, and the new financial system just today. And so I'm going to play that short little clip for you guys because he just explains it so succinctly that I'm just going to let him do the explaining on this one. So here we go. His Instagram handle is Come Out Better.
So there's a saying, he who has the gold makes the rules. But what does that mean? Let's dig a little bit deeper, shall we? So in 2017, a lot of people missed this. Trump went on a global tour. He created an alliance with other countries, the BRICS alliance nations and more, to overthrow the current financial system, to reset the system, to create a level playing field, to bring gold back as the basis, the foundation of our financial system. Because as you guys know and are learning, gold ends the Fed. And the Federal Reserve is a private entity, is pretty much printing money into oblivion, which destroys nations, manipulates currencies, allows laundering and blackmail to ensue, and allows wars and disease and all sorts of chaos to happen. So what's starting to change? Recently, gold just hit an all-time high at about $3,500 an ounce. Trump's tariffs are causing chaos around the world because now the whole world's being shooken up as expected. But most people don't realize also too that America has all the gold, and there's a lot of hidden wealth, and there's a lot of money and gold that we've gotten back from the Vatican under the tunnels. And the Pope's death is nothing more than a mere coincidence in timing, because years ago he was already taken care of. And now that you have Klaus Schwab stepping down, you're having the monetary system reset, you're having gold and precious metals start to rise. You're also having a decoupling of cryptocurrency with the ISO tokens, getting away from the stock market, which is totally fraudulent and corrupt and rigged. And you're seeing a complete shakeup in the whole monetary system. Now, why is this so important? Because the whole world that we live in, all the nefarious, evil agendas and acts and things that we say are corrupt and bad and fraudulent, well, they're propped up by this piece of paper. They're built on this system, this broken financial, quantitative easing, fractional reserve banking, currency debt note inflated system that has destroyed this planet for so long. So behind the scenes, as the alliance forms, and on the main surface, you're seeing a financial system slowly decline and collapse, there's a whole new system in the back burner. There's a whole system ready to rock and roll. So my recommendation for you is to dive into that. What is that system? How is it going to be used? What's the technology? What's the new asset? What's the new foundation and the things that are going to be unfolding? And how do I be a part of it? That's it. And that's why all of this chaos and all this smoke screens is all happening to keep you distracted from seeing the greatest transfer of wealth occur. So I pray that you stay ahead. I pray that you keep an open mind. I pray that you dig deeper and dive deeper into these concepts and terms, because they do impact all of us. They impact our health, they impact our mindset, and they impact our financial health and our financial future for where the world is going and how we can be involved in it too.
Boom. So good job, Chris. Great summary. Chris also big XRP investor like myself, and running a very successful Kangen business on top of that. So totally agree with everything he said. XRP, the way to go. XLM too. All those ISO coins. XDC has been doing really great since the election. Um, my IOTA coins not doing so well. You know, they're down, way down, but they'll be back. You know, and just personally, like I did some little trades just last night into some of the XLM altcoins. I'm not. It's a risky move, but if you want to invest with me, I bought a little more Mobius because Mobius seems to follow a flat line, then do a huge spike every 4 years, and it's due for one. And a little more Stronghold. Talking to the people from QSI or former QSI admins last week about how none of those QSI or Whiplash ICO coins have gone anywhere except zero. But these other altcoins on the Stellar XLM blockchain do seem to show potential. And when XLM pumps, all those alt Stellar coins seem to pump even more. So Stronghold, Mobius, I hold Afram. And I'm looking for others as well. If you have any other ones, recommend to me, because there are other assets on Stellar that are not scams, that are not labeled as scams on Lobster Wallet. And there's, I think, even other ones that maybe aren't even on Lobster. So I'm looking for others. And then, you know, there's sub XRP tokens as well. What's it called? Solo. I don't hold any Solo myself because I don't think I have a wallet that holds it. But you know, sometimes altcoins on like XRP and XLM can be very profitable as well. So I just want to throw that little investment suggestion in there. At least say that's what I'm doing. I do consider it high risk though, because it's like they're kind of like meme coins, but at the same time they're very functional. With Mobius, it's like the whole thing is that this could be something used for global commercial payments for virtually zero fees, because what we're trying to get away from is that 3 point something percent credit card fee and PayPal fee. And for my international orders, PayPal takes a 10% fee on some of these international transactions. And so that middleman is collecting a whole lot of money that it is not necessary. If we as the consumers would switch to a new payment system, you know, everyone could have a little more money in their pocket to spend and not be enriching these fat cats that all they do is transfer the money. So I got end this video with, I got a little download about Jasara last night, which is that the American dream is what you make of it. And Jasara is a state of mind. I can either look at my bank account and think that I'm poor, or I can look at all my assets, including my parents' assets that I may eventually inherit, most likely. And then I never have to worry about money again. And therefore, Jasara is a state of mind. Now, I may be a little more fortunate than other people. You can't have the mindset that it's just the system holding you back. It's really only you that's holding you back. Even though the American dream in 2025 is much harder to achieve than it was in, say, the 1950s when the American dream really became a thing. At the end of the day, it is only you that is limiting your own potential. And this is a free country. The opportunities are there. Some people are taking them. Others are just sitting around being frustrated, blaming everyone else for their problems instead of getting out there and doing it, making that crypto wallet, looking into the prices, getting those altcoins, watching for the dips, and trying to sell the peaks. That's the one thing that I'm still trying to master is I got buying the dips down, but I'm still trying to find when to sell the peak. And so Jasara is a state of mind, and it does seem like the crash maybe ending, maybe not. We'll see. But either way, do believe XRP 589 eventually, maybe by the end of 2025 or by the end of 2026. So hang in there, and Pope is dead. I mean, it's a historic week, and this could just be getting started. I think there was a Q drop from April 21st, one of those back years, that said this is going to be a huge week, and so the hits could keep coming. So stay frosty. Keep a lookout for what the Vatican is going to do. Spiritual shift on the planet is underway. They're playing Pleiadian channeling at big concerts these days. I think a new spiritual paradigm is about to begin, as well as the Golden Age. So, one more time, make sure to check out deepstatemappingproject.com. Like and subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next video. New Templars.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo. This is the world as it exists today.
Welcome to the future of finance. Our movement is about replacing a failed and corrupt political establishment with a new government controlled by you, the American people.
Karl before the storm.
What storm is it?
You'll find out. You'll find out.
Just now we saw a black triangular craft fly right over those two mountains.
How far we're willing to go to fight to